If you're over 55 and you've been doing what you were told is healthy, but your gut feels more unpredictable every year, more bloating, more gas, more constipation, more urgency, more food sensitivities, there's a good chance you're not missing willpower. You're missing a detail that almost nobody talks about. One of the most common healthy foods in the Western world can start feeding the wrong gut bacteria after 55, not because the food is evil, but because your digestive system changes with age in ways that change what that food does once it hits your gut. And tonight I'm going to walk you through exactly what that food is, why it becomes a problem for many people after midlife, how to tell if you're one of them, and the safer swaps that still let you get the benefits without the gut chaos. Hi, I'm Dr. Liena. I'm not your doctor, this is educational, and nothing here is medical advice, but I am going to give you a practical evidence your gut. And tonight I'm going to walk you through exactly what that food is, why it becomes a problem for many people after midlife, how to tell if you're one of them, and the safer swaps that still let you get the benefits without the gut chaos. Hi, I'm Dr. Liena. I'm not your doctor, this is educational, and nothing here is medical advice, but I am going to give you a practical, evidence-based framework so you can stop guessing and start understanding your own biology. Let's start with the headline that will surprise a lot of people. The healthy food I'm talking about is not candy, not soda, not fast food. It's a food that doctors, dietitians, and heart health organizations have praised for decades. It's the food people reach for when they're trying to lose weight, lower cholesterol, and fix their digestion. It's oats. Especially modern, highly processed oat products like instant oatmeal, oat cereals, oat bars, and many oat-based snacks marketed as gut-friendly. And before the comments section explodes, let me be clear, oats can be a perfectly fine food for many people. For some people, they're genuinely helpful. The point is not oats are bad. The point is that after 55, certain changes in stomach acid, bile flow, gut motility, microbiome diversity, and immune signaling can make a high oat routine behave differently inside your body than it did at 25 or 35. For a subset of people, especially those with bloating, IBS-type symptoms, constipation, or frequent antibiotics in their history, oats can become a daily buffet for gas-producing and pro-inflammatory bacteria. In other words, a food you think is feeding the good bugs may be feeding the wrong ones. Here's the pattern I've seen over and over in real life. A person hits their late 50s or early 60s and starts noticing their gut isn't as forgiving. They become more sensitive to onions, garlic, beans, certain fruits, and sometimes dairy. They look up gut health, and they do what sounds logical: more fiber, more whole grains, more oatmeal. They start doing oatmeal every morning because it's easy and it feels responsible. The first week seems okay, maybe even better, because fiber can help stool bulk short-term. But then the symptoms creep in: more bloating by afternoon, more pressure under the ribs, more belching, that tight balloon feeling that makes your waistband uncomfortable, and sometimes that cycle of constipation followed by urgency. And because oats are healthy, they never suspect them. They blame stress, they blame hormones, they blame age, they blame everything except the daily bowl of oats that's been quietly changing the fermentation pattern in their gut. To understand why this happens, you need one concept. Fermentation is not automatically good. Fermentation is just what happens when gut microbes digest certain carbohydrates and fibers that you don't digest fully. When the right microbes ferment the right fibers, you get beneficial byproducts like short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate, that support the gut lining and reduce inflammation. But when the wrong microbes ferment the wrong fibers in the wrong place, especially in the small intestine where fermentation is not supposed to dominate, you get gas, bloating, distension, endotoxin signaling, and a microbiome that becomes more reactive and less diverse over time. The goal is not more fiber at all costs. The goal is the right fiber for your gut, in the right dose with the right timing. Now let's talk about what changes after 55 that makes this such a big deal. First, stomach acid often decreases with age, and a lot of people over 55 also take acid-suppressing medications. Lower stomach acid changes the first line of defense against bacteria that come in with food. It also changes protein digestion, which can impact downstream fermentation. Second, bile flow can change, and bile is not just for fat digestion. Bile acids help regulate microbes because they act like detergents that shape the microbial environment. Third, gut motility often slows, sometimes subtly, sometimes significantly, especially if you're less active, mildly dehydrated, or on medications that slow the gut. Slower motility means food sits longer, which gives microbes more time to ferment. Fourth, microbiome diversity often drops with age, particularly if your diet becomes repetitive, if you have fewer fermented foods, if you've had antibiotics, or if you eat more ultra-processed, fiber-added foods that don't come with the same plant polyphenols and minerals. When diversity drops, the ecosystem becomes less stable and more likely to overgrow opportunistic species. This is why after 55, it's not just what you eat, it's what your current ecosystem can handle. So why oats specifically? Oats are rich in beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that can be beneficial. But oats also contain certain fermentable carbohydrates that can act like rocket fuel in a sensitive gut. For many people with IBS tendencies, oats can be tolerated in small portions, but large daily servings, especially paired with other fermentable foods, can push the system over the edge. Oats are also often consumed in forms that amplify the problem. Instant oats, sweetened oat packets, oat granola, oat bars, and high-fiber oat cereals that combine oats with chicory root fiber, inulin, sugar alcohols, and gums. That combination is a perfect storm for bloating and for feeding gas producers. And here's a crucial detail. After 55, the same dose that used to be fine can become too much because your gut is slower, less acidic, and less diverse. So your healthy breakfast becomes a daily fermentation experiment you didn't consent to. Let me give you the three main mechanisms by which a high oat habit can feed bad gut bacteria in older adults. Mechanism number one is selective overfeeding of gas-producing fermenters. Not all microbes produce the same end products. Some produce more hydrogen and methane, which can worsen bloating and slow motility. Methane production is strongly associated with constipation-predominant symptoms in many people. When you feed the system a large, consistent dose of fast-fermenting fibers, you may be enriching for organisms that thrive on that substrate. It's not that beta-glucan is inherently harmful, it's that in a gut that already leans toward constipation, SIBO, or dysbiosis, you can be feeding the very organisms that keep the problem going. Mechanism number two is wrong place fermentation, meaning small intestinal bacterial overgrowth patterns. In a healthy system, most fermentation happens in the colon. But in many adults over 55, especially those with slow motility, low stomach acid, past food poisoning, diabetes, hypothyroidism, or certain medications, bacteria can overgrow in the small intestine. When that happens, foods like oats that provide fermentable substrates can create immediate bloating, brain fog, and pressure shortly after eating, sometimes within 1 to 2 hours. People describe it as "I look pregnant after breakfast." That is a classic pattern of upper gut fermentation. Again, oats are not the only trigger, but they can be a common one because they're eaten in a big bolus and often paired with fruit, honey, milk, and nuts, which adds more fermentable load. Mechanism number three is the modern health halo version of oats, ultra-processed oat products that come with additives that feed dysbiosis. A plain bowl of steel-cut oats is not the same as an oat bar with chicory root, inulin, sugar alcohols, emulsifiers, and natural flavors. Many of these ingredients can increase gas, alter bile acids, and change microbial composition in ways that are not fully understood. If your goal is gut health after 55, the most important distinction is not whole grain versus refined. It's whole food versus gut-irritating processed fiber blends. A lot of older adults who think they're eating healthy oats are actually eating a processed product with an oat label. Now, I want to add a fourth mechanism that doesn't get talked about enough. Oats can be a problem for some people because of immune reactivity or contamination issues, especially in people who are sensitive to gluten or have celiac disease. Oats contain a protein called avenin that some people react to, and oats are also frequently cross-contaminated with gluten unless they're certified gluten-free. If you notice that oats trigger fatigue, joint aches, skin flares, or brain fog, that's a clue that something immune-related may be happening, not just fermentation. This doesn't mean everyone should fear oats. It means that if you're over 55 and your gut is reactive, you should not assume oats are automatically safe just because they're culturally labeled healthy. So how do you tell whether oats are feeding bad bacteria for you? I'm going to give you a simple symptom pattern checklist. If you eat oats most days and you notice any of the following, oats may be contributing: bloating that builds through the day and is worst by evening, visible abdominal distension 1 to 2 hours after breakfast, constipation with a sense of incomplete emptying, excessive gas with strong odor, alternating constipation and urgency, reflux or belching that increases after oat-based meals, fatigue or brain fog after breakfast, and a pattern where you feel better on days you skip oats without even trying. Another clue is if you eat oats plus fruit plus sweetener and you feel wired then tired, because that combo can spike glucose in some people and then crash, which can aggravate stress hormones and gut sensitivity. If this sounds like you don't need to panic. You need a controlled experiment. Here's the experiment I recommend to many people because it's simple and it's respectful of the fact that oats can still be a good food for some. For 14 days, remove oats completely, including oat milk, oat cereal, oat bars, and healthy oat snacks. During those 14 days, replace oats with a gut calmer breakfast that has protein, gentle fiber, and low fermentable load. Then reintroduce oats in a single controlled serving, like a small portion of plain, well-cooked, steel-cut oats, and see what happens. If your symptoms return quickly, you've learned something valuable. If nothing changes, oats probably aren't your issue, and you can move on. The goal is not to demonize a food. The goal is to stop guessing. Now let's talk about what to eat instead, because taking something out without replacing it is how people end up hungry and snacking on worse things. I'm going to give you 5 swaps that work well for many people over 55 who want better gut balance and less dysbiosis-driven symptoms. Swap number 1 is a savory breakfast based on eggs or tofu with cooked protein that supports satiety and blood sugar stability. Cooked vegetables are often better tolerated than raw for sensitive guts because cooking breaks down some fibers. Swap number 2 is chia pudding in a small portion made with unsweetened yogurt or lactose-free kefir if tolerated. Chia provides a gel-forming fiber that can support stool consistency without the same rapid fermentation load as large bowls of oats for some people. Swap number 3 is buckwheat or quinoa porridge in modest portions. These can be easier for some people and offer different fiber profiles. Swap number 4 is rice congee with ginger and a small amount of protein like fish or chicken. This is a classic gut-calming meal in multiple cultures because it's warm, gentle, and low in irritants. Swap number 5 is Greek yogurt or skyr with berries in small amounts and a sprinkle of walnuts if dairy is tolerated. The combination of protein plus probiotic cultures plus polyphenols can be supportive, but portion and sugar matter. If you're sensitive to lactose, choose lactose-free or fermented dairy, or go for a non-dairy yogurt with minimal additives. Now I want to walk you through the competitor-style breakdown of the gut bacteria story, but I'm going to keep it responsible and accurate. The gut microbiome is not a simple good versus bad cartoon. Many bacteria can be beneficial in one context and problematic in another. What we're really talking about is balance, diversity, and location. If your gut is dominated by organisms that produce methane or hydrogen sulfide, you can get symptoms even if you're technically eating healthy. If your beneficial butyrate producers are low because your diet lacks diverse plants or you've had antibiotics, then dumping in one kind of fiber every day may not rebuild diversity. It can actually make your ecosystem more repetitive, like planting only one crop in a field year after year. Monoculture is fragile. Diversity is resilient. This is why a daily oatmeal habit can be a gut trap after 55. It feels like you're doing something good, but it's repetitive, and in a sensitive ecosystem, it can be the wrong fuel. Let's also address a claim you'll hear in a lot of viral gut content, the firmicutes to bacteroidetes ratio. This ratio was once talked about as a major obesity marker, and while there are patterns in some studies, the field has become more nuanced. You cannot diagnose your microbiome health from a single ratio, and you cannot assume that increasing one category automatically makes you lean or healthy. What you can do is focus on the outputs we care about: stool quality, bloating, pain, inflammation markers if you have them, and how your body responds to real foods. The microbiome is a tool, not a religion. And your symptoms are data? Now let's talk about the biggest mistake I see people make after 55, chasing fiber numbers instead of fiber tolerance. You'll hear, get 30 grams of fiber like it's a magic target. But if you're constipated, bloated, and dysbiotic, jumping from 10 grams to 30 grams overnight can make you feel awful, and it can make you think fiber doesn't work, when the real issue is that your gut needs a gentler ramp-up and a broader diversity of plants, not a single daily fiber bomb. Oats can become that fiber bomb. If you want to raise fiber after 55, do it like you would rebuild a weak muscle, progressive overload, not sudden shock. Add a little more cooked vegetables, a little more berries, a little more legumes if tolerated, and rotate fibers across the week. Your gut bacteria respond to variety. I also want to talk about the blood sugar angle because it matters for gut health too. Many people eat oats with banana, honey, dried fruit, and oat milk, and they think it's a clean breakfast. But if you're insulin resistant, a very common situation after 55, that breakfast can spike glucose and then crash. That glucose swing increases stress hormones, increases cravings, and can worsen gut motility and sensitivity. It also changes bile acids and microbial patterns indirectly because the gut is connected to metabolism. So for some people, the problem is not just fermentation. It's the entire breakfast pattern. If you want oats to be less problematic, one of the simplest moves is to reduce the total carbohydrate load and add protein. But for people who are already symptomatic, the better move is often to take a break from oats entirely and rebuild. Now let's build a practical gut reset protocol that fits real life and doesn't require extreme diets. For the next 21 days, remove oats and oat products. Keep your breakfast simple and repetitive in a good way. Protein plus cooked vegetables, or yogurt, kefir if tolerated, or congee. Add one fermented food per day if you tolerate it, like a tablespoon of sauerkraut or a small glass of kefir, because fermented foods can increase microbial exposure. Add one prebiotic food per day that is gentle, like cooked and cooled potatoes in small amounts, or green banana flour in tiny doses, or kiwi fruit, which is surprisingly helpful for constipation in many people. Keep water intake consistent and add magnesium glycinate at night if your clinician says it's safe, because constipation often has a magnesium component after 55. Walk after meals, even 10 minutes, because motility is medicine. And most importantly, remove the ultra-processed, fiber-added snacks that trick you into thinking you're feeding your gut when you're actually feeding dysbiosis. If you want a very simple what to do tomorrow morning plan, here it is. Option 1, 2 eggs, sautéed spinach, and a small side of berries. Option 2, lactose-free kefir with chia and a handful of blueberries. Option 3, rice congee with ginger and shredded chicken. Option 4, tofu scramble with zucchini and olive oil. Any one of these will usually reduce fermentation load compared to a large bowl of oats with fruit and sweetener. And if you're thinking, but I need oats for cholesterol, I hear you. Beta-glucan can help LDL in some people, but you can support cholesterol in other ways too. Legumes, if tolerated, psyllium in small amounts, flax, fish, and overall dietary pattern. The goal is to balance cardiovascular health with gut tolerance, not pick one and sacrifice the other. Now, what if you love oats and you don't want to give them up? Then don't. But optimize them. If you're going to keep oats after 55, do these 4 things. First, reduce the portion. Instead of a big bowl, try a small serving. Second, choose less processed forms like steel-cut oats and cook them thoroughly. Third, don't stack fermentables. Don't combine oats with a big banana honey and inulin-fortified oat milk. Keep toppings simple and avoid sugar alcohols. Fourth, add protein. Add Greek yogurt if tolerated, or add collagen peptides, or eat eggs on the side. Protein slows gastric emptying and can reduce glucose spikes and may reduce fermentation symptoms. And if you still bloat, listen to your body. Your gut is not a moral test. It's a system responding to inputs. I also want to touch on the gut test trend. People spend hundreds on stool tests and then get a list of bacteria with scary names. These tests can be interesting, but they're not always clinically actionable, and they can increase anxiety. Before you spend money, do the simplest diagnostic tool first, a controlled elimination and reintroduction. Your body's response is the most practical feedback. If you remove oats for 2 weeks and you feel dramatically better, that's actionable. If nothing changes, move on. Don't get stuck blaming one food forever when the issue could be stress, sleep, medications, low stomach acid, or lack of plant diversity. Let's not ignore the other major reason people's guts fall apart after 55, medication and lifestyle. NSAIDs can irritate the gut lining. Some blood pressure meds affect motility. Metformin can cause GI symptoms. Antidepressants can shift gut function. And sleep changes with age, and poor sleep changes the microbiome. So if you remove oats and still feel terrible, don't assume you failed. It may mean oats weren't the main driver, or it may mean you need a broader gut support plan. But oats are a very common hidden contributor simply because they're eaten daily. They're often stacked with other fermentables, and they're marketed as a universal gut fix. Now I'm going to give you the 3 signs your gut is improving so you don't judge success by the scale. Sign 1 is less distension. Not just I lost weight, but my belly doesn't expand like a balloon after breakfast. Sign 2 is stool regularity and ease, meaning you're going consistently without strain and without urgency. Sign 3 is calmer appetite. Dysbiosis can increase cravings and snacking because some microbes influence hunger signaling. When the gut calms down, people often feel less driven to graze, especially late in the day. Those are the outcomes we care about. Here are the most common mistakes that keep people stuck. Mistake 1, swapping oats for another highly fermentable health food like large smoothies with raw greens, apples, and sweeteners. That can be even worse for a sensitive gut. Mistake 2, replacing oats with ultra-processed gluten-free pastries and calling it a win. That's not a win. Mistake 3, adding probiotics without changing the substrate. If you keep feeding the wrong microbes daily, adding a probiotic is like hiring new workers while still letting vandals run the factory. Mistake 4, expecting perfection in 3 days. Gut shifts take weeks. Mistake 5, ignoring movement. A short walk after meals can change motility and fermentation more than most supplements. Let's lock in everything we covered in a simple recap. 1, oats are healthy for many people, but after 55, they can become a problem for some because the gut environment changes with age. 2, the issue is often fermentation load, especially when oats are eaten daily in large portions or as processed oat products with additives. 3, if you bloat after breakfast, have constipation, reflux, or brain fog after oats, try a 14-day oat-free experiment and reintroduce in a controlled way. 4, replace oats with protein-forward, gentle breakfasts like eggs with cooked vegetables, kefir with chia, quinoa porridge, or rice congee. 5, focus on plant diversity across the week rather than one daily fiber source. 6, don't chase fibergrams, chase tolerance and consistency. 7, if you have red flags like blood in stool, persistent severe pain, unintentional weight loss, or anemia, don't self-experiment. Get medical evaluation. Your gut after 55 isn't broken. It's adaptive. It changes. And when you understand how your microbiome responds to the foods you repeat every day, you regain control without extreme diets and without fear. If this video helped, share it with someone who's doing all the healthy things but still bloats and doesn't know why. Subscribe for more evidence-based gut and metabolic strategies here on Dr. Liana, and in the next video I'll show you the best bedtime routine to support gut lining repair without triggering reflux.